Hello everyone, my name is Aude. I'm an accounting expert at Odoo. Today I'm going to walk you through the new redesigned bank reconciliation screen in Odoo 19. Bank reconciliation is one of the most critical tasks for accountants. But let's be honest, sometimes it feels that you're like navigating a labyrinth because it's so time confusing, it's so confusing as all, and sometimes you don't see the end of it. Well, Odoo 19 completely reimagines this process. With smarter automation, with a simplified interface, and fully AI-powered matching, makes bank reconciliation almost effortless. Before we dive into the reconciliation screen, you can see a QR code on the right of the screen. I quickly invite you to scan this code for if you have any questions during the presentation. And then I will tackle all your questions at the end. Let's first take a step back. Finance teams handle dozens of transactions every day. Think about invoices, think about fees, think about all other transactions, you name it. So reconciling them makes it much critical for reporting. And on top of that, with all those transactions coming in, it's likely that you're going to make some errors. And most of the processes today, most of the reconciliation today is manual. And the tools that we use aren't always intuitive. So, how can we face those challenges? How can we reduce errors? How can we save time? Can we perfect matches? Can recurring payments fully be automated? Can AI assist us by creating the models based on our past transaction? Well, I can already reveal you the answer. Odoo 19 reveals it all. Odoo 19 gives you the solution. But instead of talking only about the theory, we're going to dive into the practical side. So today, I've created a company, Moonpadel, it's a fake company of course, to show you some features in Odoo 19 in the bank reconciliation. First of all, you see some apps that I've installed, but the most important app of today is of course the accounting app. So let's go straight to the accounting app. First of all, you see here some journals that I've installed, but the most important journal of today is of course our bank journal. You see a lot of things here, for example the transactions. So if I click on this button, you see all the transactions in Odoo. And then you see that we have 9 items to reconcile. And then on top of that, you see your instant balance, so your current balance account. And then something new here is 1 item to review. So we're going to open the bank journal. And the first thing that we see is a redesigned screen. All the debit amounts are in green, and all the credit amounts are in red, which gives a more clearer view. And secondly, we see more detailed transaction. So if you see like a transaction here, you can see that everything is more detailed. So no more clicks to do everything open. You can see it in 1 click. And last but not least, we also have a search bulk, which is not really new, but it makes reconciliation much easier. For example, I want to search for all my rent transactions. I can search it in 1 click. So you don't need to search in the labyrinth anymore. Let's first start with a typical situation, a perfect match. A perfect match is created by Odoo by 3 criteria. First of all, you have the label that you see here on the left. Secondly, you have the partner. And then you have the amount. The rule in Odoo is if 2 of the 3 criteria matches, Odoo finds a perfect match. Okay, let's illustrate that by only creating 2 perfect criteria. So I'm going to write a label, a random label. Odoo is fun, because Odoo is really fun. And then we're going to look for the partner, Tero Padel, and I'm going to put an amount of 1,000 euros. And then we see that indeed Odoo has created a perfect match because 2 of the 3 criteria has been matched. On top of that, we have a chatter right away here on the right. Or if you click on the pay-per-click, then you see everything that is connected to this specific transaction on your right screen, which makes audits much smoother. And if we jump to the next transaction, the chatter will move with you. I'm going to close the chatter right now. Then we are going to check the next transactions in line. I'm going to close this. And we see that a lot of smart buttons are created. So Odoo created those smart buttons based on our past history. So based on what I did before, Odoo remembers which action is the most appropriate one. So if we're going to look at the next transaction in line, we see here a label, Moonpad 13 and 14. So probably 2 invoices that have been paid in one time. And there is also a partner set. So the first thing that Odoo does is to propose to reconcile this payment. I'm going to click on this button. And then I see indeed, if I'm going to put it on the right, those 2 invoices matches perfectly my transaction. And on top of that, I see the invoice invoice 14 is in draft. But no worries, I can still select those 2 invoices and reconcile them directly, even though the invoice is in draft. So I'm going to select them, and voila, we have created a perfect match with those 2 invoices. Of course, the draft invoice needs to be posted. So I'm going to open my chatter again, and then I'm going to log my colleague Charlene to make sure that she will post the invoice right away. Hi Charlene, can you please post the invoice? The invoice 14. And then we make a look. We can also create an activity if you want. For example, to do plus 5 days. So we put plus 5, and then we're going to assign it to Charlene again and send a note, please don't forget to post the invoice. Don't forget to post invoice 14. Great. And then I'm going to close this chatter again. And now you see here the activity that I have created. All your activities you can also find here. But it's not something new, so I'm not going to talk about it now. Then we're going to check the next payment in line. The next payment in line is a partial payment. So partial payments, so probably not the full payment. But as we don't have a partner set, Odoo doesn't find the perfect match. So the first thing that Odoo suggests is to set a partner. So I'm going to select this option, set a partner. And now I remembered that a client of me, called me yesterday to say that he wasn't happy with his services, that he's not going to pay the full amount. So I'm going to search for this specific partner. And look if I'm right. I select Power Pro. And the next thing that Odoo suggests is to reconcile, because Odoo found an invoice that is linked to this specific partner. So I'm going to click on the reconcile button as suggested by Odoo. And here I see there's only one invoice of Power Pro Antwerp. And here you can also see the balance. So there's a remaining balance of 30 euros. I think this one is the right invoice, so I'm going to select this invoice. And then I see if I click on the E, indeed, the invoice was 119 euros, and my client only paid 160 euros. The client was not happy with his services, so he's probably not going to pay the full amount. So if I click on the invoice, you see indeed there's an amount of 30 euros, but I want to reconcile the full invoice, because I'm not going to receive the rest of the payment. So I'm going to click here on the pencil, and then you have an option. You might want to set the invoice as fully paid. I'm going to choose this option. Voila. And I'm going to save it. Then you see that the invoice is not yet reconciled because you have still a remaining balance of 30 euros. So for the 30 euros, we need to set an account in order to reconcile our transaction completely. So here you have a button, Set Account. Or even further, you have a button, Payment Reference. So a smart action button actually. So I'm going to click this option, and then we see that Odoo posts this amount on a loss account. So that's great. This transaction is reconciled. And then we're going to see the next transactions in line. Here we see a transaction of Padel Shoes Amazon. So my client Manon Lambert paid an amount of 190.70 via Amazon. So I know already that this is not the full amount of the invoice because Amazon typically holds a commission of 1.5%. So the first thing that Odoo suggests is to reconcile the amount, because Odoo found some existing invoices based on the partner that is set. So I'm going to follow Odoo's suggestion and click on the reconcile button. And then indeed we see here the invoice Moonpad 25010 of 200 euros. And then we see a remaining balance of €3. So 1.5% of the €200 is indeed my balance of €3. So I'm going to select this invoice. And then I see, if I click on the invoice, of course, that amount is fully paid, even though there was a difference of €3, so the commission of €3. Well, in Odoo 19, there's a new rule, the 3% tolerance rule. So if an invoice amount matches with the payment amount, but there's a small difference of €3, so less than 3%, Odoo will still fully reconcile the payment with the invoice. So, and then I'm going to check. Of course, I need to put the remaining €3 on an account. Otherwise, Odoo will not reconcile my transaction. So I'm going to check the option Set Account, and I'm going to search for a commission account. So I put 65, and indeed, this is the right account. Let's create a manual transaction now, a similar transaction that we did before, to see what Odoo does. Is Odoo going to learn from the past and propose me the right account? So I'm going to type in padel shoes via Amazon again. I'm going to search for the partner, Manon Lamberian, and an amount of €149. Okay, and then we see that Odoo has found a perfect match with the invoice 25012. I'm going to click on the invoice and see what it is. And here we see that the invoice is fully paid, as there was only a small difference of €1, so a difference that's less than 3% between the payment amount. So my payment and my invoice are fully reconciled. And then the next thing that Odoo does is to propose me a smart button. So Odoo has learned from the past. So we can directly click on this button, and then now you see that the €1 is directly booked on a 65 account. Great. And then we're going to check the next transactions in line, because we have a lot of transactions left. And we see here a payment to Sports BV, to my vendor Sports BV, for an amount of €302.5. Odoo has found the vendor, in this case Sports BV, but there is no invoice that can be matched. So the most logical solution, most logical next thing that Odoo is going to suggest is to set it on payable account, on the Sports BV account. But what if I have the invoice available in my computer? Then I can click on these three buttons and upload directly my bill. So directly from the reconciliation screen, I can upload the bill. I'm going to do this option. And then we see indeed, this is the right invoice, so I'm going to select this one. I'm going to open it. And then, thanks to OCR, Odoo has read everything in. So that's great. The next thing that we can do, there's also a new feature in Odoo 19, is if you want to split all the descriptions here, line by line, you can select all the prices here, and then Odoo will read all those prices. And then the same thing for the quantity. I'm going to put my mouse here, and I'm going to select all the quantities, and boom, Odoo reads everything in one click. That's pretty cool, right? And then we're going to select the other description right here, and then Odoo does the same. So that's really handy if you have a lot of transactions, a lot of invoice lines, and you want to split it all. And then we see here the amount of 350, and then we're going to confirm the bill. And then the next thing that we see below is the outstanding debits. So the transaction of €302.50. So we can directly add this transaction, so the bill is directly reconciled. And now we see the amount of €0, so indeed that's correct. And we can go back to our bank matching. Great. And then the next thing in line that we see here is a purchase of balls. The first thing that Odoo suggests is to set a partner. In this case, I don't have a partner. So I'm going to select the second option, to set an account. I'm going to set an account. Purchase of balls. I don't remember the right account anymore. So I'm going to search for padel, because I know balls are padel equipment. So I'm going to search for padel. And then we see here our account name and the description right to the account name. So that's really handy for all the transactions, all the payments that you don't remember which appropriate account to use. So in this case, this is the right account. I'm going to select this account. And if you want to include VAT, you're going to click on the pencil. And then we have here an option, taxes. In this case, 20% taxes. We choose purchase of goods. And then we're going to save this transaction. And then we see that it's fully reconciled. And the VAT amount and the cost amount is totally split. Great. And then we see another transaction, purchase success pass of Odoo. And here we see a button, reviewed. I'm going to check a chatter, why it is set as reviewed. And then I see, indeed, it has been set by my colleague, Charlene. But she was maybe not sure if it was a proper account. So she put it to reviewed for me, so I can review it later. If I go to my dashboard, I can also find everything that I need to review on my dashboard. So I'm going to click here on to review. And I see I have only one thing to review. I'm going to check if this is the right account. I think it's okay, so I'm going to put it as reviewed. And now I'm going to put these filters away to go back to my bank journal. And then we have still some transactions left. I see here some rent payments, so I'm going to search for all my rent payments to make my life a little bit easier instead of searching in everything. So I'm going to put this rent, and I see a lot of rent payments. The first transaction that we see here is already reconciled. I'm going to check the chatter. Why is it already reconciled? Oh, okay, I did it manually. So for the next transaction in line, I'm going to close my chatter. I will also reconcile it. So I will also set an account, the right account. So I click on accounts. Then I'm going to search for rent. And I see the 61 account, so that's great. If I'm going to do that, Odoo suggests for the following transactions, the following payments, that it also can be put on a rent account. And on top of that, if I go to my dashboard, and I go to my modals that you can see right here, I'm going to click this away. I see that Odoo has even created for me a model. So Odoo really learns from past transactions and makes reconciliation models for me. And if I want to automate as much as possible, I can even click on the button Automate. I'm going to do that to make my life much easier because all rent payments need to be reconciled on a rent account. I'm going to click this option. And now I'm going to see in my dashboard, in my bank journal, of course, if I come to search for rent, we see that all my rent payments are reconciled directly, automatically, thanks to AI on the 61 account. Great, now we don't have any transactions left. So this was the end of our demo. Let's go back to the presentation. It's time for a wrapping up phase. So Odoo 19 is much faster, much smarter, and much smoother. It is much faster thanks to the redesigned screen. Odoo creates perfect matches for me automatically, thanks to the 3 criteria. On top of that, we can reconcile draft invoices in one click. And the next thing that you see here, you have instant balances, so you don't need to click everything open. So that's much faster, sorry. And the next thing that we see here, Odoo is much smarter. So thanks to Odoo learns from the past. And if Odoo learns from the past, Odoo creates automatically for me models, as you saw in the example of the rents. And finally, but not least, Odoo is much smoother. Thanks to the paperclip, you have all your information, all your audit trail on the right screen available, which makes audits much smoother. Great, this was the presentation. I'm ready for your questions now. So here you can see again the QR code that you can scan and put all your questions in.
Okay, we have some questions.
Okay.
So Is the transaction reconciled before your review?
Yes, indeed. Can I show it again? No. But the answer is yes.
Okay. What if you have two different bank journals? Can I see the transactions in like one screen?
If you have two different bank journals, that's no problem. You can click this away, and then you see all your bank journals. Now I don't have two bank journals in my system, but if you click the filter away, you see all your bank journals in one click.
Okay. Are we able to turn off the 3% tolerance for the payment?
What did you say?
The 3% tolerance.
It's something new in Odoo 19, so it's not. I don't think it's possible. No, it's a new feature in Odoo 19, so it would be. But if you want, I can search for the solution and reply it to you later. But I don't think it's possible.
Okay. Can I directly communicate with client in the reconciliation overview?
Yes, indeed. So if you open the chatter again on specific transaction, you have here a button send message. This way, I'm going to click on transaction. You see here, Manon Lambert is pointed, so I can directly send a message to Manon. So hi Manon, if you need a specific information, for example, so you can directly chat with your client, indeed.
Okay. Do we have a maximum for the models created? Or like, can we create models too?
You can create as much as models as you want. So if you click on the button here, models, Odoo has already created some standard models. And then if you want to create a new model, you click on the button new, and then you create it. But actually, it's not needed because Odoo learns from the past and creates models for you.
Can every user do the reconciliation, or like, can I block some user from doing so?
Every user can do the reconciliation indeed, but based on the general settings, based on the user account, you can manage some rights that a specific person cannot do the reconciliation, for example. Or you can put it in reviewed, as I showed before.
Okay. Are all features working in like different languages, or is it restricted to English?
It works in all different languages, indeed.
Okay, we have time for one more question. What if I do a bad reconciliation manually? Can I like undo it or edit it?
If you do, yes, indeed, that's a good question. So if I go again to my bank account, I have two different views. This is a view where you see all your transactions, but then you have also a list view. If you click on this list view, then you can change a specific transaction. But the first thing that you need to do, of course, is to unreconcile the transaction. So let me take this transaction. For example, the date was not correct. I'm going to go to the list view. And then, okay, which was it again? I'm sorry. 17 September, Moonpad 25. Okay. Then I can change the date directly here. So for example, due to some time indifference, I'm going to select the 18. In this way, you can change a lot. And then you see it's indeed 18 September right now.
Okay, great. I think we're out of time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.